Guys, Love Island reunions are no joke. We are on dinner break. It is 9:45. We're going back in there soon. This reunion, it's good. And everybody's here. And I'm having so much fun with Ariana. She's amazing. And you know what? I like hosting a reunion with her. It's really fun. So anyway, Daddy needs some coffee or something.
You guys, I literally cannot believe what I'm about to tell you about the Love Island USA reunion that just filmed. And before you ask, yes, I have the receipts, and yes, this is about to get absolutely unhinged. So apparently, this reunion was so chaotic that production had to bring in extra security. We're talking about filming being stopped multiple times, cast members having what insiders are calling physical and emotional outbursts, and Andy Cohen himself admitting this was unlike anything he's ever hosted. But here's the thing. What I'm about to reveal goes so much deeper than just reunion drama, because the extended heart rate challenge footage that Andy confirmed will air, the footage he called revelatory to the group, that's just the beginning of what actually went down in that studio. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why multiple outlets are calling this the most toxic Love Island reunion in franchise history, why certain cast members allegedly tried to leave mid-filming, and the one revelation that has everyone questioning everything they thought they knew about this season. So buckle up, because we're about to spill some piping hot tea that's going to change how you see season 7 forever. Look, I've covered reality TV reunions for years, and I thought I'd seen it all. But when multiple production sources start using words like unprecedented and security intervention, you know something went seriously wrong. The Love Island USA Season 7 reunion, filmed on August 12th in New York City, was supposed to be a standard wrap-up of the season's drama. Instead, it became what insiders are describing as a complete disaster that required damage control from the moment cameras started rolling. And hey guys, also, if you could do me a big favor and hit that subscribe button for me if you like this content, I would appreciate that so much. Love you. Okay, back to the tea. Let's start with what we know for certain. Andy Cohen, who's hosted literally hundreds of reality TV reunions, posted on his Instagram during a dinner break that he needed coffee or something. Now, Andy's no stranger to drama. This is the man who regularly wrangles the Real Housewives. So when he's asking for caffeine reinforcement during what should be a straightforward Love Island reunion, that tells you everything you need to know about the energy in that room. According to Andy himself on Watch What Happens Live just 4 days ago, the taping ran until around 11 p.m., significantly longer than planned. He described it as no joke and mentioned there were large crowds waiting outside, suggesting the delays were substantial enough that fans camping out were getting restless.
We wrapped. It's 11 o'clock. Look at this. Love Island fans. How about this? Wow. We don't get fans in front of Housewives reunions. What the hell, man? Good job, everybody. It was a great reunion, just so you know.
But wait until you hear about the seating chart drama that allegedly required production intervention. We'll get to that in just a minute. What's particularly fascinating is how Andy has been handling the aftermath. Usually he's all about hyping up reunion drama. It's literally his brand. But his comments about this Love Island reunion have been notably careful, almost diplomatic. He praised Ariana Madix repeatedly, calling their co-hosting chemistry amazing. But when pressed about specific moments, he's been surprisingly vague. That's not the Andy Cohen we know. That's an Andy Cohen who signed an NDA and is trying very hard not to violate it. The man who once called a Real Housewives reunion boring has been describing this Love Island reunion as good, which in Andy speak might actually mean absolutely unhinged, but I legally cannot elaborate. Here's where things get really interesting, because what initially seemed like a heartwarming Love Island success story has become significantly more complex. Amaya and Brian, the fan favorite winners who split the $100,000 prize, went into that reunion with a very specific agenda. And if you think that's messy, just wait until I tell you about the confrontation that has everyone questioning their entire love story. During their July interview with Variety, both Amaya and Brian made it crystal clear they had unfinished business with certain cast members. Specifically, they wanted to, quote, address the Zach K situation. Now, for context, Zach Sirkiu has been making the rounds on podcasts and interviews, basically dragging Brian's reputation through the mud. He's called Brian strategic, questioned his motives for defending Amaya, and suggested that Brian only pursued her because he knew she was the fan favorite. But here's what makes this particularly explosive. Zach has receipts. In his interview with Us Weekly, he pointed out that Brian never once mentioned wanting to get to know Amaya throughout the entire season, until after the Stand on Business challenge made her popularity obvious.
That's rich coming from Zach, considering he switched up just as fast after that challenge.
Zach essentially accused Brian of playing a calculated game, which is a serious allegation in the Love Island universe where authenticity is supposedly everything. Amaya, for her part, has been equally direct about her feelings toward her former connections. She told E! News she doesn't speak to Austin Shepherd at all, and that with Zach, quote, "I don't mess with him whatsoever." Those aren't the words of someone planning a friendly reunion chat. That's someone preparing for war. So when these three ended up in the same room, with Andy Cohen asking pointed questions and cameras rolling, the tension was apparently immediate and intense. Sources suggest the Amaya-Brian-Zach triangle became one of the most heated segments of the entire reunion, with all three parties coming prepared with their own versions of events, and none of them backing down.
Now here's where things get really interesting, because what I'm about to tell you about the behind-the-scenes chaos explains everything about why this reunion was so explosive. Multiple sources are reporting that the Love Island USA Season 7 reunion required unprecedented production interventions. We're talking about security being called in not once, but multiple times throughout the filming process. The term physical and emotional outbursts has been used by several outlets, which suggests we're not just talking about raised voices and dramatic exits. This sounds like genuine confrontations that made production worry about the safety and well-being of the cast members. When reality TV producers, who literally profit from drama, decide they need to step in and de-escalate situations, you know things have gone beyond normal reunion chaos. But here's the detail that really tells the story. Seating arrangements had to be changed mid-filming. Think about what that actually means. Someone, or multiple someones, became so agitated or volatile that production couldn't trust them to sit near certain other cast members. This isn't just drama, this is logistics becoming a safety issue. The fact that filming was stopped multiple times also suggests that whatever was happening wasn't just good television drama. Good drama keeps cameras rolling. Stopping production means someone crossed a line, whether that was legal, ethical, or safety related. And we're not talking about one incident. Multiple sources emphasize this happened repeatedly throughout the night. Andy Cohen's need for extra coffee during dinner break starts to make a lot more sense when you realize he was probably dealing with cast members having emotional breakdowns, security concerns, and a production team scrambling to maintain control of what was supposed to be a straightforward reunion special. Now remember how I said there was footage that would change everything? Well, here it is. And honestly, I'm still processing this myself. The extended heart rate challenge footage that Andy Cohen confirmed will air during the reunion isn't just additional content. It's apparently footage that completely reframes the Huda and Shelley conflict that dominated the later part of the season.
You and Chelley saw Huda for the first time since you left the villa, I think. That was pretty dramatic. And also we showed the extended version of the heart rate challenge, which was revelatory, I think, to the...
During his Watch What Happens Live appearance, Andy specifically called this footage revelatory to the group. Not revelatory to viewers, revelatory to the cast members themselves. That suggests this extended footage showed the Islanders something they didn't know about what happened during that challenge. Something that changed their understanding of the drama between Huda and Shelley. Because apparently watching yourself on reality TV is like looking at old text messages. Suddenly, everything hits different when you see the full context.
For context, the heart rate challenge was where Huda performed a dance on Ace, Shelley's partner, that Chelley felt crossed friendship boundaries. It became a major point of contention and contributed to the Mean Girls drama that defined the season's final weeks.
But what if there was more to that story? What if the footage that aired was edited in a way that didn't show the full context? This is where things get particularly messy. Because if extended footage reveals that the conflict between Huda and Chelley was based on incomplete information, that potentially invalidates a huge chunk of the season's narrative. It also means that cast members went into that reunion with grievances based on an edited version of events, only to discover the full truth in real time, on camera.
With Andy Cohen asking follow-up questions, which, let's be honest, is peak Andy Cohen energy. Nothing he loves more than watching people realize they've been wrong this whole time. The idea that this footage was revelatory to the group suggests it either exonerated someone who'd been blamed or implicated someone who'd been seen as innocent. Either way, it apparently changed the dynamic in that reunion room dramatically.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room, Hurricane Huda. Going into this reunion, there were legitimate questions about whether Huda would even show up. After her spectacular finale meltdown with Chris, followed by reports that they tried to leave the villa before results were announced, many fans wondered if she'd want to subject herself to more public scrutiny. But honestly, this is Huda we're talking about.
avoiding confrontation has never exactly been her strong suit. But Huda did show up, and according to Andy Cohen, that's where things got dramatic. Specifically, he mentioned that it was notable seeing Huda face Chelley and Olandria for the first time since leaving the villa. Now remember, these weren't just casual villa conflicts. These were deep, personal betrayals involving friendships, loyalty, and public humiliation. The kind of beef that doesn't get resolved with a simple, "Hey girl, we good?" The Mean Girls drama from the season wasn't just television. It was real hurt feelings and damaged relationships. Chelley felt betrayed by Huda's behavior during the heart rate challenge. Olandria got caught in the middle but ultimately sided with Chelley during the stand on business challenge. And Huda felt ganged up on and isolated by people she considered friends. It's giving high school cafeteria energy but with higher stakes and better lighting. Those wounds don't heal in a month, especially when they've been playing out on national television with fans taking sides and social media amplifying every grievance. So when these three women found themselves in the same room for the first time since the villa, with cameras rolling and Andy Cohen facilitating, the explosion was apparently immediate and intense. But here's what nobody's talking about yet, and it's the detail that makes this entire reunion make sense. The aftermath of Sierra's removal from the villa created additional layers of resentment and guilt that hadn't been fully processed by any of the cast members.
I did not go to the reunion, guys. I didn't go to the reunion, and I'm okay with that. Like, I just feel like any conversations that I would want to have, I don't want them to be on a stage in front of people with the cameras and the theatrics. Like, I want real, raw conversations and honesty, and I just don't think that is something I ever would have gotten at the reunion, so I am okay with that. Like, I'm crying. I did not go to the reunion, guys. Oh my god. Am I okay?
This is the part of the story that I think explains so much of the toxicity at this reunion. Sierra Ortega's removal from the villa for racist social media posts didn't just affect her and Nick. It created ripple effects throughout the entire cast that nobody really dealt with properly. Think about the timeline. Sierra was removed just days before the finale, right when emotions were already running high. Nick immediately coupled up with Olandria, which should have been a happy ending, but instead felt complicated and tainted by the circumstances. The other Islanders had to process the fact that someone they'd lived with and defended had a racist past they knew nothing about. Chelley, who had been friends with Sierra, suddenly had to reconcile her feelings about someone she cared about with the reality of offensive content she couldn't defend. Olandria had to navigate coupling up with Nick while knowing it only happened because of Sierra's removal. And everyone had to deal with the fact that their girls-girl dynamics had been supporting someone whose values were completely incompatible with what they claimed to stand for. None of this was really addressed on the show because there wasn't time, and there wasn't a clean way to handle it without derailing the finale entirely. So all of these unresolved feelings and complicated emotions were sitting under the surface when they walked into that reunion. Add in the pressure of defending their actions on national television, the stress of fan scrutiny, and the inherent awkwardness of reuniting with people you lived with in an artificial environment, and you have a recipe for exactly the kind of explosive confrontations that apparently required security intervention.
Here's the uncomfortable truth that I think made this reunion so toxic. Nobody really wants to examine too closely how Nicolandria actually happened. The fan favorite love story that everyone was rooting for has some seriously problematic optics when you look at the timeline. And bringing that up at the reunion apparently touched some very raw nerves. Nick and Olandria's coupling happened immediately after Sierra was removed from the villa. Like, immediately. Sierra was dealing with racist posts surfacing and getting kicked off the show, and within hours, Nick was exploring a connection with the person fans had been shipping him with all season. The optics alone are rough, but the emotional reality is probably even more complicated. It's giving suspicious timing energy, and not in a cute way. Did Nick have feelings for Olandria while he was supposedly committed to Sierra? If so, that's a betrayal that goes beyond normal villa drama. Did he only pursue Olandria after Sierra left because it was suddenly convenient? If so, that raises questions about whether their connection was genuine or opportunistic. Either way, there are uncomfortable questions that fans have been asking and that apparently came up at the reunion. Olandria's side of this is equally complex. She'd been stuck with Taylor despite having zero romantic chemistry, clearly had feelings for Nick, but only got her chance when another woman's life was falling apart. That's not exactly the fairy tale romance narrative that fans want to believe in. More like right person, wrong circumstances meets terrible timing, but we're going with it anyway. When these questions apparently came up at the reunion, with Andy Cohen's signature bluntness and cameras capturing every uncomfortable moment, the defensive responses from both Nick and Olandria allegedly contributed to the heated atmosphere that required production intervention. Amaya and Brian walked into that reunion carrying the weight of being not just winners, but representatives of a cultural moment.
They were the first Latino couple to win Love Island USA, and their victory was seen as meaningful representation in a genre that has historically marginalized people of color. That's a lot of pressure for any couple, but especially for one that formed in the final weeks of the season. The scrutiny on their relationship has been intense, with breakup rumors circulating almost immediately after they left the villa. Brian's allegedly been accused of cheating, which his family has denied. Amaya has been dealing with questions about whether her feelings were genuine or influenced by the game. And both of them have been defending their connection against critics like Zach, who suggest it was strategic rather than authentic. Walking into a reunion where they knew they'd be confronted with these allegations, where they'd planned to, quote, address the Zach situation, and where they'd have to defend their relationship on national television, probably felt less like a celebration and more like a trial. The pressure to prove their love was real, combined with the frustration of having their motives questioned, likely contributed to whatever confrontations made this reunion so explosive. When you're defending not just your relationship, but your integrity, and when you know millions of people are watching and judging, the stakes feel impossibly high. Every question from Andy Cohen becomes loaded, every response gets scrutinized, and every interaction with your fellow cast members carries the potential to validate or destroy the narrative you're trying to build about your experience. It's like being on trial, but the jury is Twitter, and the evidence is your heart rate during challenges. What I think really made this reunion so toxic is the collision between the artificial environment of the villa and the very real consequences of reality TV fame. These contestants went from living in a bubble, where their biggest concern was who to couple up with, to dealing with death threats, racist harassment, and public scrutiny of every decision they made. Sierra's been getting death threats since her removal. Huda's been dealing with intense criticism of her parenting and her relationship choices. Yulisa disappeared from public view entirely after her racism scandal. The mental health implications of this kind of sudden, intense public attention are serious, and none of these people were really prepared for it. So when they walked into that reunion, they weren't just dealing with villa drama, they were dealing with the trauma of becoming public figures overnight, often in very negative ways. The defensive postures, the heated confrontations, the need for security interventions, all of that makes sense when you realize these people have been under siege for weeks. The reunion became less about resolving villa conflicts and more about defending themselves against public perception, which is a much higher stakes and more emotionally fraught process. When your livelihood, your reputation, and your safety feel threatened, normal reunion drama becomes something much more intense and potentially volatile. Andy Cohen, for all his experience, has never hosted a reunion where the cast was dealing with this level of external pressure and public hostility. The usual techniques for managing reunion drama probably felt inadequate when faced with people who were genuinely struggling with the aftermath of their reality TV experience.
Remember that revelatory heart rate challenge footage that Andy mentioned?
Based on what sources are saying about the reunion, this wasn't just additional content. It was footage that completely recontextualized the conflicts that defined the season's end. And showing that footage to the cast, live, during the reunion, apparently triggered some of the most intense confrontations of the entire night. Think about what that means. Cast members who'd spent weeks defending their positions, dealing with public criticism, and nursing grievances based on what they thought happened, suddenly seeing evidence that their understanding of events was incomplete or incorrect. That's not just dramatic television. That's potentially traumatic for the people involved. It's like finding out your entire argument was based on a group chat you weren't fully included in. If the extended footage showed that Huda was unfairly vilified, that changes everything about how Chelley and Olandria treated her. If it showed that Huda actually did cross lines that weren't captured in the original edit, that validates their concerns, but also means the audience has been defending someone based on incomplete information. Either way, it apparently created a situation where people felt betrayed either by each other or by the editing process itself. The fact that this footage was shown during the reunion, rather than being released separately or discussed hypothetically, suggests that production wanted to capture the real-time reactions of people discovering new information about their own experiences. That's either brilliant television or deeply manipulative, depending on your perspective. But it certainly explains why the reunion became so volatile. Nothing quite like watching people realize they've been living a lie for the past month. It's peak reality TV chaos, just maybe not the fun kind.
As we approach the August 25th air date for this reunion, the anticipation has shifted from excitement to genuine concern about what viewers are going to witness. Multiple sources describing it as toxic and reporting security interventions suggest we're not just getting standard reality TV drama. We're potentially watching people have genuine breakdowns on national television. The question becomes, should we be watching this? When reunion drama crosses the line from entertainment into exploitation, what's our responsibility as an audience? The Love Island USA Season 7 reunion apparently captured moments of real pain, genuine conflict, and potentially harmful confrontations. For the cast members involved, August 25th represents another wave of public scrutiny and potential harassment. Whatever happened in that reunion will be dissected, memed, and turned into social media content, regardless of the human cost to the people involved. The cycle of reality TV fame that starts in the villa and continues through reunions has become a machine that consumes its participants, and this reunion appears to be the most stark example yet of that process. Andy Cohen's careful handling of his post-reunion comments suggests even he recognizes that what they captured might have crossed lines that make him uncomfortable. Whether Love Island USA can recover from the fallout of this season and this reunion remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, the August 25th broadcast is going to be unlike anything we've seen in the franchise's history, and not necessarily in a good way. The tea has officially been spilled, and it's scalding hot.